The SofTec Genu is a functional orthosis for stabilizing the knee joint after a torn cruciate ligament, collateral ligament injury, osteoarthritis, or to restrict the range of movement. The SofTec Genu joint has a technically intelligent mechanism so that the pivot point of the joint automatically adapts to the physiological pivot point of the knee joint, thereby taking the pressure off the ligaments and assuring a proper fit. These tools are required: tape measure, goniometer, and a crimping tool. During diagnosis, the affected knee is thoroughly examined following a consultation with the patient. Discuss any circulatory problems, allergies, scars, or skin diseases. If possible, take measurements with the patient standing up, with the leg bent at a 30-degree angle. Enclose the patella, determine its midline, and mark the measuring point for taking the measurement on the side at the specified distance. Markings are then made for the circumference values to determine the size. Measure 17 centimeters upward from the midline and 15 centimeters downward. Measure the circumference value 1 at the height of the center of the patella. And the circumference value 2 at the bottom edge. And the circumference value 3 at the top edge. Use the 3 values to select one of the 6 standard sizes of the SofTec Genu. It is available in the colors black and titanium and in left and right versions. To adjust and fit the orthosis, pull the upper straps out of the guide slots. You can now open the Velcro fastening of the joint splints and withdraw the straps. Ensure that the outer and inner joints are always on the correct side. Gray stands for the outer, red stands for the inner. The patellar insert of the SofTec Genu assists the correct seating of the orthosis later on. Before fitting, open the zip fastener at the lower end of the orthosis. The patient takes hold of the knitted fabric of the orthosis and pulls it upwards strongly and evenly. Now check how the insert is sitting. The insert must enclose the patella precisely. Close the zip and check the fit of the orthosis very carefully so that no creases or painful pressure points arise. Close the strap system loosely. Do not apply any tension yet. If the insert is sitting correctly, it exerts a compressive force on the surrounding soft tissues. This helps reduce swellings. For further steps, take off the orthosis. The inner and outer joint splints are now adjusted. Put the leg at a 30-degree angle and fit the inner joint splint. The mechanical joint must be at the height of the center of the patella. Mold the joint splint to the anatomical shape of the leg. To do this, release the lock screw, but do not move it, so that the mechanics of the joint are protected during shaping. Gradually shape the joint splint using the round crimping tools. The material can be corrected several times without it breaking. Refit and check whether the joint splint is lying uniformly against the leg without leaving any pressure points. The joint splint is now optimally fitted to the leg. Follow the same procedure for the outer joint splint. Check seating of joint. If required, reshape. The correct fit is necessary to ensure that the two joints work together to guide the knee, avoiding constraining forces and thus protecting the ligaments. In the next step, the orthosis is assembled to find the individual knee joint axis. Make sure that the thigh section of the joint splint is not fully inserted, i.e. do not put it in the pocket provided for the joint splint, but secure it gently under the cover. The height of the joint splint must be able to change. Ensure that the outer and inner joint splints are put into the correct joint pockets. The colored points help with orientation. Refitting the SofTec Genu. A tip: turn the orthosis back to front when pulling over the foot. Then turn it around and pull it evenly upwards. Feed the straps back through the guide slots and close gently. Check the seating of the SofTec Genu in consultation with the patient. Ensure that there are no creases in the hollow of the knee. The thigh section of the joint splint must move to allow self-adjustment of the SofTec Genu joint. Release the outer and inner lock screws and push them forwards by pressing on them. Then the securing plate opens and the joint is exposed for self-adjustment. A few steps are all it takes, and the joint has taken on the individual physiological axis of rotation. A comparison of the scaling disc before and after walking shows that the pivot point of the joint has automatically adjusted to the individual knee joint axis. Important: for locking, push the screws back into the original position above the joint and tighten. The movement of the two joints is restricted as follows. Remove the joint splints from the knitted fabric. They are not limited in the factory. On the back, the retaining latch must be locked and the joint secured so the pivot point can no longer move. Remove the joint cap. Remove the limitation pins. Take the joint splint in your hand so that the distal part is secured by 2 fingers. Parallel lines can be seen on the front of the upper joint splint. The front edge of the lower joint splint lies parallel to one of these lines. Hold the lower joint splint so that this position is precisely fixed. Apply the scale membrane and align its blunt marking tip with the blue marking on the joint splint. Insert the limitation pin for extension restriction into the front left-hand half of the joint surface according to the scale. Insert the limitation pin for flexion restriction into the rear right-hand half of the joint surface according to the scale. Replace the joint cap. The test. In this example, the joint splint is limited to 90 degrees flexion and 0 degrees extension. The inner joint is now adapted to the outer one. Remove the limitation pins. Place the two joint splints, as they will be later used in the orthosis, on top of one another. Now the limitation pins can be pushed into the correct positions. Fit both joint splints in the SofTec Genu. Once again, ensure that the inner and outer splints are on the correct side. This time, fit the joint splints securely in the guide channels, behind the colored tongue, and secure the Velcro. In future, the patient will put the orthosis on himself. First, rotate the orthosis by 180 degrees and pull over the foot. Then turn it back round and pull up with even movements. Close the zip fastener. Check that the kneecap is enclosed by the insert. Then the straps are threaded in. The straps are closed starting with the two at the bottom. Then the two top are closed so that the joint splints do not twist around the leg. The SofTec Genu stabilizes the knee and avoids constraining forces. In addition, the active knit of the orthosis improves sensory motor control and activates the muscles.